Shop Center and save 50 cents a pound on fresh dressed whole chicken legs. Center priced at just 49 cents a pound. Shop Center Markets for Price Plus. Live from Toledo's News Center 13, this is the Nightly News at 11 o'clock.
Ronald Reagan today proposed a $20 billion tax cut to remedy America's economic problems. Reagan proposed that Congress act now on his idea so that the tax cut would go into effect on January the 1st of next year.
Reagan's advisors have worried that their man's tax cut proposal might be preempted by President Carter. So Reagan advanced the timetable for his 10% tax cut.
I believe the situation is desperate enough that the point of this is that I am saying to Congress, don't wait. Do it now so that it would be in effect on January 1st.
The Reagan plan would cut taxes next year for everyone, a total of $20 to $22 billion. He says that it would be only the first of 3 cuts of 10% each in 3 years.
It's a warning instead to the people to not be fooled by an election year, as I called it, gimmick or tinker tax that might be proposed for political purposes, but that would not meet the real need that we have for an ongoing tax cut.
Reagan said he could cut taxes and still run the government by eliminating waste, but he would not say what he would eliminate.
Maybe I'm using, at the moment, not specific figures, but the recognition from our own experience here in California that such waste does exist and can be cut.
Reagan never did say specifically what waste or federal program should be cut in order to reduce government spending. And when reporters continued to question him about it, he accused them of nitpicking. Don Oliver, NBC News, with the Reagan campaign in Los Angeles.
President Carter is also considering a tax cut similar to Reagan's proposal. Reagan proposed that cut many months ago. Then the president decided that tax cut would also be a wise political move. So tonight it appears the two apparent candidates in November are playing a game of one-upsmanship. President Carter was in Madrid, Spain today as part of his European trip. The president toasted King Juan Carlos and said Spain's return to democracy was a tonic for the world. The president said Spain's cooperation is essential to the peacekeeping role in Europe. Mr. Carter leaves for Portugal tomorrow. Top OPEC official says Western nations are to blame, not OPEC, for double-digit inflation in this country. The oil cartel's Secretary General says the irrational overuse of energy has brought on increased demand with a higher and higher price tag. His suggestion, cut usage and thereby cut prices and reduce inflation. A Rossford woman remains in serious condition tonight at St. Luke's Hospital from a Perrysburg Township accident this morning. 34-year-old Roxanne Brewer was trapped in her car after it collided with a pickup truck on East River Road. After being freed, Miss Brewer was transported to hospital by life flight. Her daughter, 13-year-old Dawn Bailey, was also injured. She's reported in good condition tonight, and the driver and the passenger in the truck were not injured. The City of Toledo has a new chief of firefighters. The appointment was made this morning. He is Deputy Chief William Winkle, a 17-year veteran of the force. The new chief was the originator of the Hazardous Materials Unit and was its first chief. The 45-year-old Winkle says he has some ideas on how to deal with problems currently plaguing the force, but he won't talk about them until he gets in the chair.
Yes, that's going to be a dramatic change.
Another example of revitalization efforts in downtown Toledo was ceremoniously shown off today. It was billed as the grand reopening of the downtown Holiday Inn at Summit and Jefferson after the decaying hotel was purchased by a consortium of 5 financial institutions nearly a year ago. A major renovation program has been underway. A spokesman for the consortium of owners said the Holiday Inn is important to downtown revitalization because it is situated in the heart of the central business district and is located across from Port Industry Square, Promenade Park, and is one of the stops on the downtown bus loop. For years, there have been literally thousands of reports showing the dangers of the foods that we eat, from drug additives to pesticides. The news has not been very encouraging. Well, tonight there is some encouragement in this news. After years of study and millions of dollars in research, the Food and Drug Administration has concluded that our food isn't that poisonous after all.
The low-profile research program has been checking food samples for over 15 years. They're looking for agricultural pesticides, heavy metals, or industrial chemicals. The foods come from randomly selected grocery stores in 30 cities across the United States and is what you or I might eat in a typical week. The samples have a local flavor. The market basket from Providence, Rhode Island is heavy on seafoods. The batch from Atlanta includes grits. It's rushed to Kansas City, where it's divided into categories and prepared as it would be in your home. The scientists, using some of the most sophisticated equipment, spend up to 700 hours carefully analyzing our total diet.
The surprising results are that with all of the concern about the ingestion of pesticides, the total diet does show that they are at a very low level and within acceptable tolerances.
But some quiet changes have taken place as a result of the $1 million a year program. Several years ago, man-made chemicals were found in some candy bars. It was traced to the glue used to seal the wrapper. Dangerous chemicals were also detected in cereals coming from the cardboard package. It led to an inner liner for each box. But the Big Brother eye-in-the-sky type program isn't resting on its laurels. The program will be revised next year to match the changing appetite of America. They'll be testing Big Macs and pizzas as well, realizing that in today's society, some people eat out more than they eat at home. From Kansas City, Ron Howard for NBC News.
The Supreme Court with a decision today on your rights under the Constitution. We'll have that story coming up next. The right of the individual to sue the government was enlarged today by the Supreme Court of this country. The High Court ruled that individuals may sue for money damages if their rights are violated. At issue was interpretation of an 1871 law that says people may sue for deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution. Becoming an adult can be confusing, especially if you're trying to figure out if you are one. Is it 21 or is it 12? Well, Contact 13 has a couple of answers. Here's Nancy Riley.
The confusion started when these three 14-year-olds went to a movie earlier this month.
When we went in, she handed out a $4 ticket to us, and she said, that's $4. And I asked her, well, we're only 14. How can we pay adult prices? And she said, well, that's your reason, you're 14.
Not wanting to cause any trouble, the boys said nothing and paid the adult price. Later, Bill's mother decided to contact 13. We contacted the theater management for their definition of child and adult. In this instance, the cashier had made a mistake. A child is considered 14 and under. The management sent the boys a letter of apology. And when the boys take the letter to the theater, they'll get to see another movie free. They each get to take a guest, too. One catch, though, the movie must be a G or a PG and approved by their parents. Contact 13 checked with a number of theaters in the area and found that the age a person must pay for an adult ticket varies from 12 on up. So what holds true for one theater isn't necessarily so for another. I'm Nancy Riley. Contact 13.
And if you have a problem, we invite you to Contact 13 at this address. The House voted today to spend more than $13 million to register American males born in 1960 and 1961 for the military draft. An estimated 4 million 19 and 20-year-olds will have to sign up with the Selective Service this summer. As Vietnam continued its invasion of Thailand today, a warning was heard, this time from China. The Peking government warned Vietnam that it would stand behind Bangkok militarily if the Vietnamese didn't stop their invasion and go home. And Secretary of State Muskie also said the United States is willing to send arms to help the Thais fight the Vietnam invasion force. We'll be right back.
When the John O. Davis Company develops a project like Westgate Meadows, we need lots of crisp, clean copies of detailed plans and diagrams. And our Savin copier from Sims has made over 100,000 of the crisp, clean copies we need. Every detail is critical, and Savin's quality and Sims' service have never let us down. If your company requires dependability plus copies as good as the original, I think Sims will have a Savin copier for you.
Start with a true 3.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine with easy pull-and-go start. Add a 20-inch vacuum action steel deck, instant action height adjusters, handle throttle control, easy to maneuver rear bagging, and you have Montgomery Ward's rear discharge lawnmower, now just $188. Or get all this plus self-propelled action for just $228 at your lawnmower headquarters, Montgomery Ward.
June is Children's Furniture Month at Bedland on Reynolds Road. One of the first things you look for in children's furniture is durability. Our big selection of children's bedroom sets combines sturdiness and beautiful design. And now you can save 10 to 20% on canopy beds, bunk beds, twin and double beds with your choice of dressers, tables, desks, and mirrors to make your children's bedroom a very special room. Don't miss Children's Furniture Month at Bedland, 2544 North Reynolds Road, where all your dreams come true.
More pictures of the inside of that Mount St. Helens volcano today. A look inside that made Mount St. Helens appear like another planet surface, barren and desolate.
There's a fresh layer of snow on top of Mount St. Helens, which continues to show signs of volcanic activity through the clouds that often cover it. 2 small tremors were recorded overnight and 2 more this morning. Geologists say the mountain is still sending up plumes of steam and ash, and they feel certain there will be another eruption. The first legal announcements of probable death were issued today for some of the 43 persons who were reported missing on Mount St. Helens following the first big eruption more than a month ago. The coroner who issued the document said he can't formally declare the victims dead because their bodies have not been found. But he said he felt the victims' relatives needed something to help them resolve insurance and estate problems. Robert Like felt there was evidence of death in all but 3 of the cases he investigated.
The conclusion reached in most of them is that the evidence is clear, cogent, and convincing that on May 18th, 1980, at about 8:32 a.m. in the morning, the missing person met their death.
Following the first eruption, searchers made more than 500 separate flights and covered more than 600 square miles. The coroner says no one within 12 miles of the blast survived, and some of the bodies that were found were up to 18 miles from the mountain. One of the documents issued today was for Harry Truman, the 84-year-old proprietor of Spirit Lake Lodge. Truman vowed he'd never leave the mountain, and he and his lodge were buried in the May 18th eruption. Bill Sternoff, NBC News, near Mount St. Helens.
As always, I'm sure there are those who would disagree, but it's a very nice night, getting, as you said, a bit cooler.
Sure is. The stars are out and the temperatures are in the low 70s. Sounds like a good night for tenting.
Oh, yes.
For
what?
Tenting, sleeping in a tent.
Tenting. Oh, I've never heard that expression.
It might be a new verb. It might be. Well, forgive that. Let's take a look at the national scene and see what's happening. An area of weak high pressure has developed in the Virginias, extending all the way into the lower Great Lakes and all the way out over the Atlantic. This has pretty much cleared our skies along the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley area. And there is still a stationary front extending all the way from the Atlantic over to a low, which is now stationed in the Panhandle section of Oklahoma. All along that and to the south of it, there are severe thunderstorms in some areas and just showers in others, but this will continue for the next day or so. 4 inches have accumulated today in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. There are some showers in the upper Great Lakes and also in areas of Nebraska and Colorado. Cool air is pushing in from Canada. By tomorrow night, that should be through Ohio, and our temperatures will only be in the high 70s for Thursday and for Friday and Saturday. A little shower activity and some thunderstorms in the Rockies, also in the Pacific Northwest at this time. In the tri-state area, temperatures are in the low 70s, and it's a very, very pleasant night out tonight, no matter what Randy says. Detroit, Lansing, and Grand Rapids. Detroit's the same temperature as Toledo, a little warmer in Lansing and Grand Rapids. Their skies are clear also. The upper regions of Michigan, Alpena is at 73, Traverse City is 70, and Sault Ste. Marie is 68 under clear skies. 13's 5-color weather radar doesn't even have any ground clutter to show us at this time. Our high for today was 84, our present temperature is 62, and currently our temperature is 71 outside, which is 22 on the Celsius scale. No precipitation today. Our relative humidity is 79%, the barometric pressure is 29.98, and rising slowly. The pollution standard index for today was 54 in the moderate range. Ozone was our pollutant. Tonight, mostly clear skies, a low near 60, and a 10% chance of precipitation. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies again, one more day of highs in the 80s, and a 10% chance of rain, then beginning to cool with a low of 55. Inland winds tonight are from the southeast at 6 miles per hour. Tomorrow they'll be westerly 10 to 20. The boater's forecast tonight calls for winds from the south to southwest around 10 knots, and tomorrow they'll be westerly 10 to 15 with waves of 1 to 3 feet. Sunrise at 6:02, sunset at 9:13, and here's the extended outlook. Friday, mostly sunny and cooler with a high of 75. Saturday through Monday, partly cloudy skies. Showers or storms possible by evening. highs in the 70s, but then by Monday it's going to warm up again into the 80s. So we have a little respite for the weekend.
And I learned all about tenting. Actually, I've been in tents many, many times. In fact, I've been camping in my
Perhaps
basement.
I said it too quickly.
Yeah, I just called it a man who knows all about tenting and about how the hens did tonight. We'll have that coming up next. Stay tuned.
It's inventory adjustment time at George Ballas Buick. Over 900 new Buicks are available right now. More are on the way. Buick Regals and Centuries are rated at 20 City and 27 Highway. Over 460 are available now. Electra's 17 City, 23 Highway. We've got over 50. It's time to switch and save with Buick Economy. We've proved it before. We're proving it again. If you can afford a Ford or Chevrolet, Pontiac or Rolls, George Ballas has a Buick for you.
We'd like you to buy your next new car from George Ballas, but if you don't, please buy one made in America.
At York Steakhouse, we serve the best in food and quality. Real restaurant people serving you just like family. York's tender, juicy, sizzling steak, our fresh desserts, the pies we bake. You'll get a lot more food for a lot less than you thought the price would be. Let York Steakhouse prove it to you.
York proved it to me.
John Gillespie in sports coming up. Frank Venner is in Washington on assignment. We have his editorial tonight via satellite and Earth Station 13.
It's a sad commentary on our current society when tax laws provide an incentive for couples to live together without getting married. But that's exactly what's happening at an ever-increasing rate. The problem comes as a result of the two-income family becoming the rule rather than the exception. When a married couple's income is combined for tax purposes, it pushes them into a higher tax bracket. And even though married couples pay at a lower tax rate than singles, it isn't enough to counter the tax in the higher bracket. The penalty really hits hard when both spouses earn about the same amount. Consider this example. Two single persons, each making $20,000, would pay a combined federal income tax of $7,658. If they married and filed a joint return, their tax would be $9,355. If they are married and file separate returns, their combined tax would be $9,344. The extra bite for being married thus runs nearly $1,700 more. For the past 8 years, there have been efforts in Congress to get rid of this marriage tax. The Treasury Department estimates that 16 million working couples paid more than $8 billion in additional taxes for last year because they were married. One proposal in Congress would allow married couples with two incomes to file individual tax returns as if they were single. More than half of all married women are in the labor force today, and the financial penalty for being married is getting worse. A tax structure that discourages marriage while encouraging divorce and unmarried couples living together is hardly conducive to a strong family-oriented society. Congress should move to eliminate the marriage tax now.
John Gillespie here now. Turn around for the hens tonight.
Yeah, I should be smiling. Yeah, they were playing for first place tonight, and unfortunately, they had a tough night. A huge crowd of 7,343 fans packed the rec center tonight, but they left disappointed. The Hens lost a pair to Columbus. Columbus scored 6 runs in the second inning, and the Hens never threatened in the first game. This is the final out as Chris Welch of the Clippers held Toledo to only 4 hits tonight. The final score in the first game read Columbus 6, the Mud Hens 1. In the nightcap, it looked like the Hens were going to win. Gary Ward singled to right, moved Vega to third, and then he scored on a sacrifice fly to center field. Unfortunately, Columbus came back with 3 runs, and the Mud Hens could not score again. The final in the second game read Columbus 3, Toledo 1. So now the Hens are 2 games behind first place Columbus in the International League. They play the Clippers again at the Rec Center tomorrow night. Taking a look at the scores around the major leagues tonight, Detroit won their 7th in a row. Sparky Anderson is smiling in Detroit. The final score was 13-3. Milwaukee beat Oakland 5-2. Boston edged the Yanks in 10 innings, 4-3. Baltimore got by Toronto. Kansas City beat Minnesota, and Texas topped Seattle 6-1. Over in the National League, the Reds had a big night at the plate. They scored 15 runs to back Tom Seaver as they beat the Atlanta 15-3. Chicago and New York split a pair 9-1 and 5-4. Let's take a look at the highlights of this afternoon's first game.
The Mets were leading 3-1 in the third when Frank Tavares singled and Claudell Washington followed with his second hit of the game to put men at first and third. With the bases full, catcher John Stearns brought home Tavares with a sacrifice fly to Jerry Martin for a 4-1 New York lead. Jose Cardinal, in a rare starting role, singled to left, bringing in Claudell Washington with the Mets' fifth run. And Elliot Maddox completed the 4-run third with a double to give the Mets a 7-1 lead, scoring Joel Youngblood, with Cardinal trailing, and that finished Cubs starter Mike Krukow. New York made it 8-1 in the seventh when Doug Flynn followed Youngblood's double with a single up the middle. The Mets added another in the eighth for a 9-1 win in the first of two this afternoon. Jeff Davis, NBC News, Chicago.
Taking a look at the rest of the scores in the National League, Philadelphia edged Montreal 2-1, St. Louis bopped Pittsburgh 4-1, and Los Angeles and Houston are all tied up at 2-2 in the seventh inning. Well, the sun was shining at Wimbledon, England today for the first time in 3 days, and most of the matches were played without interruption. While you're watching some of today's action in the women's singles, I'll give you the highlights of this morning's schedule. Virginia Wade beat Ivana Madruga of Argentina in straight sets. India's Vijay Amatraz lost in 5 sets to Argentine Jose Clerc. Americans Pat Dupree and Stan Smith both won their matches. The biggest upset today came when Israel's Shlomo Glickstein outlasted Mexico's Raul Ramirez. Because of rain delays the first 2 days, the tournament is about 50 matches behind schedule. Well, the Cleveland Browns signed their second-round draft choice today. He's defensive end Cleveland Crosby, who played at the University of Arizona. Crosby, at 6'5", 255 pounds, has good speed and could become one of the better pass rushers in the NFL, according to pro scouts. Well, the 4th annual 13-strong swim meet will be held this Saturday and Sunday at the Rec Center. Teams from all over Northwest Ohio and Southern Michigan will be competing. Admission is free, so join us out at the Rec Center this weekend and see some of the finest amateur swimmers in the Midwest. Well, word came from the Olympic track and field trials in Eugene, Oregon today that a track meet will be held in Philadelphia in mid-July for the United States and the other nations that are supporting President Carter's boycott of the Summer Olympics in Moscow. And that's good to see those guys get a chance to at least compete with other countries.
Okay, good. We'll be looking, they're looking for the Titanic. We'll have a story coming up.
I love my Ethan Allen Gallery. It's more than just a furniture store. Ethan Allen's a lamp store, a clock shop, a treasury of crystal and brass, a gallery of oriental rugs. Ethan Allen lets us make a room more than just a room, because Ethan Allen is more than just a furniture store.
Come on over to our house.
Visit Georgetown Manor, Toledo's only Ethan Allen Gallery, 5690 Monroe Street.
A fascinating adventure is about to take place, something all of us at one time or another may wish we could be a part of, the rediscovery of the Titanic. Now, the Titanic sank 68 years ago with a loss of more than 1,500 lives. Now scientists say it's time to go back in time. The bulk is believed to lie in waters 12 to 15,000 feet deep and a search area 15 miles by 15 miles. The expedition leader thinks there's a 50-50 chance of finding the Titanic.
Titanic's going to be found using a research ship towing a vehicle very close to the ocean floor that will essentially make sound and listen to the echoes coming back from the Titanic. We'll make a sound picture, and then we would lower cameras that would take pictures on color film and on videotape showing more details.
If the Titanic is found, a submarine will try to take pictures next summer. Expenses of over $1 million are being borne primarily by a Texas oilman.
We're giving the people something that is of great interest to millions of people from all walks of life and all ages.
The search is expected to begin the last week of July. Fascinating. I remember thinking my grandparents listening to the song 78 of the sinking of the Titanic. I don't remember who did the music. That's our, thanks for reminiscing, Randy. Good night, everybody.